Welcome to Danger, the channel where we dive into the world's most chilling true crime stories. Please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get notified every time we post something. The 2004 murder of Rachel Callaly is a case that peeled back the veneer of a seemingly perfect Irish suburban life to reveal a core of narcissistic cruelty and calculated deception. Joe O'Reilly, a well-known advertising executive, appeared to have it all. A beautiful wife, 2 young sons, and a comfortable home in the quiet area of Knowle, North Dublin. However, beneath this facade, Joe was drowning in a double life. For over 6 months, he had been engaged in a serious extramarital affair with Nikki Pelly, a former colleague. Far from a casual fling, Joe had convinced Nikki that he was desperately unhappy and that they had a future together. Yet, Joe was a man obsessed with his public image and his financial standing. He viewed a messy divorce as a failure that would strip him of his assets and his reputation. In his mind, the only clean exit from his marriage was the permanent removal of his wife. The planning of the crime was chillingly methodical, demonstrating a level of premeditation that shocked the Irish public. Joe didn't just snap. He studied the movements of his household and the logistics of mobile technology to create what he believed was an airtight alibi. On the morning of October 4th, the trap was sprung. After Rachel performed the mundane task of dropping their children at school and returned to an empty house, Joe was already there, having secretly driven across the city from his workplace. In the sanctuary of the shared bedroom, he attacked her with a heavy, blunt object, suspected to be a sash weight or a gym dumbbell, striking her repeatedly with such force that the scene was described by investigators as a bloodbath. To further the deception, he spent the following minutes ransacking the house, opening drawers and scattering belongings to mimic a frantic burglary, before calmly driving back to his office to check in and ensure his presence was recorded. Perhaps the most psychopathic element of the case was Joe's orchestration of the discovery of Rachel's body. He did not want the police to look at him as a husband who found his wife, so he weaponized the love of Rachel's mother, Rose Callaly. By repeatedly calling Rose and claiming he was frantic because Rachel wasn't answering her phone, he manipulated his mother-in-law into visiting the house. It was Rose who opened the bedroom door and discovered the horrific sight of her daughter's remains, a trauma Joe was willing to inflict on her just to provide himself with a layer of investigative distance. Even after the murder, Joe's narcissism drove him into the spotlight. He sat on the set of The Late Late Show, Ireland's most watched program, appearing as a grieving widower. However, his performance was a failure. His cold eyes and the lack of genuine grief alerted both the public and seasoned detectives that his sadness was a carefully constructed mask. The breakthrough for the Gardaí came through the very technology Joe thought he had mastered. While he insisted he had been at his South Dublin office all morning, forensic experts used cell tower triangulation to prove otherwise. Every text message he sent to his mistress that morning, 18 in total, acted as a digital breadcrumb, pinging off masts that tracked his journey from his office to the Knowle and back again. This evidence was bolstered by the discovery of emails Joe had sent to his sister, in which he spoke of Rachel with pure, unadulterated hatred, referring to her in derogatory terms and stating that his marriage was effectively dead. These digital records painted a picture of a man who wasn't a grieving husband, but a cold-blooded killer who viewed his wife as an obstacle to be removed. In July 2007, the trial concluded with Joe O'Reilly being sentenced to life in prison, a verdict that brought a somber sense of justice to the Callaly family. Yet, the story didn't end with the clink of a cell door. For the past 2 decades, O'Reilly has been a polarizing figure in the Irish penal system, consistently maintaining his innocence and launching multiple appeals based on legal technicalities. As of early 2026, he remains incarcerated, but he continues to apply for parole, much to the anguish of Rachel's parents, Rose and Jim Callaly. They have become tireless advocates for victims' rights, successfully campaigning for changes in Irish law to ensure that the families of murder victims have a greater say in parole hearings. Joe O'Reilly's refusal to show remorse or admit to his crimes remains the primary barrier to his release, serving as a final, bitter reminder of the narcissism that led to Rachel's death. Thank you for watching. If you want more factual and respectful true crime content, please like, subscribe, and share. And as always, stay safe.